Hello friends, welcome to my class today. Today we'll see the next research topic, that is research problem and research question. So a research problem means it is a statement about an area. So problem means we make a problem statement about an area of concern, that means on which area we are interested and something we want to improve. Okay, so we find some difficulty in our practice or in our area where in our surroundings we see something troubling situation and that we want to eliminate, and this all we wanted to understand about the problem everything, and then we make a investigation or we make a deliberate investigation to find and solve the problem, that is called as research problem. Next is the research question. So these are specific queries researcher want to answer in addressing the research problem. So in the previous research problem means it is a statement where the researcher make on the area of concern. Here it is a query, means it's a question that the researcher want to answer in addressing the problem, and the research question should be clear enough in such a way that the purpose is understood by the readers or audience without any need for additional explanation. For example, formulating a research question should be like, what would be the experience of patient waiting for a pain medication, or what would be the experience of patient for waiting long for doing a procedure. So like that, any question should be there which should give a meaningful sentence so that anyone who is reading that can understand. And in order to make a good problem statement or a research question, we have to identify the problem area. So first step in the research process is identification of problem. So identification of research problem means it is a sense of awareness of a prevalent problem or a social phenomena or concept that is significant or worth to study or investigated, and it is based on the sound observation, knowledge, wisdom or skill of the researcher. Okay, so that means we have to make an awareness, or we have to have an awareness of where we are going to study, on what problem we are going to study. It may be a social problem or a new invention we are going to do. So what all the things we wanted to study, on which area, and what all the problem we have to study, we have to first identify, and this needs a sound knowledge, observation and wisdom and skill of the researcher. Only if the researcher have all this knowledge and observation, then he can make a good problem statement and go forward with the research study. To identify the research problem, the researcher must have good knowledge. So that means he must be able to grasp the situation and issues in whichever area that is around his surroundings. So what is the situation? Everything he has to grasp and get the knowledge about it. And moreover, he must be aware of the current trends and situations. Okay, only when we do some research on the current issues, the research will be recognized. So for example, now the situation is corona. So if a person does a research on COVID or finds some vaccines, etc., then the researcher will be credited for the new findings. Same way, we have to identify what trends or current issues are going on, and based on that we have to do the research. The research problem is identified because there is a need for explanation. So that is, we have to see areas where existing explanation or ideas are suspicious. Okay, that means someone would have done a study or they would have written in a literature, but those maybe the conclusions are not correct, or there may be some doubts. So the researcher can change or formulate the question according to that, and he can make a do a research study. So areas where more explanation is need to arrive for conclusion. Okay, sometimes if there is a doubt, or sometimes the conclusion is not vivid or it is not clear, then the researcher can select the topic and go for the research and draw conclusions. And in identifying the research problem, we have to find out the relationship. So that is to identify the relationship between two variables. So whenever we do a research, we must have two variables, and in between the two variables, whether there is a significant relation or a non-significant relation has to be identified. And also areas where elaborate relationship is not found, then the researcher can do the study and find out a detailed relationship between the variables. Next, coming to the sources of research problem identification. Okay, that means where all we can identify the research. Okay, so first, research is a time consuming process, and there must be a curiosity and interest on the topic for the researcher. Okay, because if the researcher is having no interest, then he cannot do the study. So it should not be a forceful action, it should be a action where the researcher himself by his own curiosity he is doing, then only he will have the patience, energy and interest to do the study. And next, the for doing a research problem, as I already said, there should be a very good knowledge in the researcher, because research problem cannot germinate in an empty mind. So, okay, when the mind is empty without any knowledge, then we cannot do the research. It should have good knowledge and experience to do the research. In order to get this knowledge, the researcher has to do a good review of literature. That means he has to do a extensive study, and he has to get so much intelligence so that his ideas are likely to sprout. Sprout means he can come out with some good ideas of how to do the research. Okay, next, coming to the sources of identification of problems. So sources means which all areas we can identify the problems. So first is from theories. Okay, so theories means already there is so many generalizations, though so many tested theories or relationship they have found, and this is also like research people have done theories related to the area of their practice. Okay, so when we keep reading those theories, we get a knowledge about doing a research. So always theory and research goes in hand. Okay, that means they are it cannot be separated. So whenever we do a research, it's nothing but we also doing or testing a theory. And next is from experience. Experiences in the area where we practice, there are so many problems, issues and so many things that is happening in that environment. So we have a direct relationship with that area, so we can identify the issues and problem in that area. And next is discussion and brainstorming. By discussing with some experts who are in that area, by making a brainstorming exercise, that means repeating. So what area we are interested, we have to keep on repeating it in mind so that we can collect so many ideas. Okay, so we should discuss with others, we can discuss with some expert people, and they can guide us to make a problem statement. And next is social issues. So there are so many issues in the community, like any political issue or social issue, like previously women were having so many problems in the society. Now after doing so many research, they say woman is equal to men. Okay, so like that, when only when we address these social issues and do a research, then only the problem will get solved. And finally, by from literature. So a problem identification can be done by reading so many journals, articles, and previously if the person have done any published researches, we can read those researches, and from that we can get the idea of how to write our problem statement and in which area we can do the study and how to go about with the study. Okay, let's see each sources one by one. So first is theories. So theories is explains the phenomena under research proposed. So phenomena under research proposed is, so there are so many theories which already our leaders has been tested. Okay, like motivational theory. Okay, so there is a Maslow hierarchy of motivation, which theory has been tested by Maslow. Say like that, they have tested something and made a phenomena. Likewise, learning theories are there where they have tested on dogs and made a conditioning theory. So like that, so many theories they have already proposed. So when we look into those theories, we get an idea of how to do a research. And by doing this theory, we can predict the occurrence of the phenomena. So like what was that phenomena, how it occurred. So how can I do my study? So like that we can predict. Okay, and next it enables the investigator to posit eventually and discover unknown and unobserved phenomena. So for example, if already a theory has been done, but they have not given a conclusion, or the questions or problems have been not solved, then this researcher will get an idea to do that study and pinpoints the crucial aspects to be investigated and crucial questions to be answered. So when we read a theory, we know that how the person or the investigator had done that study, so where all the crucial points are there, so those crucial points we can grasp, and from that we can come out with a problem. And it will also help the researcher to structure and restructure the domain of understanding. So by reading a theory, we get a good knowledge or understanding to how to find our research problem. Okay, next is experience. So experience helps to sharpen the focus of research. Okay, that means only when we go and do a practice in a particular area, then we will have a good idea about the current issues in that area, so it will focus our knowledge regarding research. And experiences relate usefulness for various issues that emerge in the mind of the researcher. Okay, only when we do a particular job in a particular area, we will know what is the problem in that situation. So like a needle stick injury was a problem, so then they said you should not recap the needle. So likewise, only when the researcher when only when problem arises in the situation, then we can have a knowledge of doing a research. And explores the context for innovative researchers. Okay, so in field of study, because we are directly dealing with the area or directly with the people or machines, the researcher will be able to do the research in a more innovative way, because he will have good adequate knowledge about that area. And next, formulate research problem more meaningfully and practically. Okay, so because he is experiencing in that area and he is practicing in that area, so he can practically or meaningfully, which is needed for that area, which problem is more priority, that area he can choose the problem. And next, equips the researcher with understanding which aids to identify problematic situation, behaviors, and issues that in which area the research is required, so that problem he can select for the study. So this is about experience. Okay, next, coming to discussion or brainstorming. So here the contemporary research areas capture the mind of the researcher. Okay, so that is suddenly when the discussion session is going on, like conference, workshop, any seminars, suddenly something will strike in the mind of the researcher. Some problem or some situation will strike the mind, so that in that area the researcher can identify the problem. Okay, and during these sessions, any ambiguity means that if there is some doubts on the mind of the researcher whether he can do a study or not on a particular problem, that can be clarified. And during this brainstorming session, any new academic inputs means if there is some important situation that the investigator wanted to study. Okay, so they can put some input, means some ideas other experts can give, so that he will be able to find the problem in a suitable way according to the particular situation. And any unknown hazards the research may experience while identifying the problem situation becomes evident. Okay, while in this brainstorming or discussion sessions, the investigator will be able to identify if there will be hazard for doing some problem. Okay, some problem certain maybe legally he cannot do, maybe he may fail to follow the human rights movement, etc. So at that time, during this brainstorming sessions or discussions, he can clarify those situations. And next, meaningfulness of research problem in the mind is further judged. Okay, so whether the research problem which he is keeping in the mind, it can be judged. That is, when 2 or 3 people are saying this problem statement is good, then the researcher can judge the research statement as valid. And researcher may be able to make clear classifications. Okay, so that means he will be able to make clearly that this is the statement on which all area he is going to study and how he is going to classify the research. Everything he will be clear when he is going for this discussion and brainstorming sessions. Okay, coming to the social issues. So any problem in the society or community that becomes a dissatisfaction or felt need for a researcher. Okay, so anything which is happening in the society that the researcher is not is thinking that it is wrong or this should not happen like this, then the researcher can do a study, then prove that whether there is a inadequacy in the current situation. Okay, so like for example, as I already said, if there is any problem with the women's empowerment, okay, so then he can do a study on this research. If the women are empowered, how it is going to benefit the society, so like that he can do a study, and thereby, so like that people have done a study, thereby now women empowerment is being followed in many countries. Okay, and inadequacies and incompatibilities create dissatisfaction within the researcher, so that the researcher can try to find out the problem and solve the problem. Okay, so like any inadequacies, any problem in the community, any problem in the society can be dissatisfaction for the researcher, so the researcher can select that problem and he can do his study. Okay, then the idea of the research can occur or they can stem when the person is familiar with the social issues or social problems. Okay, so for example, the civil rights movements had led the research on minority health problems, access to healthcare, and culturally sensitive interventions. Okay, that means initially the low caste people or the minority population did not get access to healthcare, and mainly these hilly areas, these areas they did not have access to healthcare. Okay, after doing a research, they found out that these areas also need healthcare, and thereby now their social problem was solved. Next is by doing an extensive literature study, we get the knowledge or source of identification of problem. So that is research articles which is already written and kept in this clinical area or any setting. So when we read that research articles, we will get an idea how to do the research. And there are published research reports, and these published research reports are indirectly they help the investigator how to do the study. They stimulate the imagination whenever we read some books. Okay, and various literatures like books, articles, journals, researchers, when he keeps on reading, he will get the concepts, ideas from those books, and then he can have formulate the problem for him how to do the study. And familiarity with existing research or with problematic controversial issues that have to be understood and investigated systematically is important route of developing a research topic. Okay, so that means existing research journals or existing books where there is some problematic areas which the previous investigator did not identify. This researcher can make it clear by doing a research on that particular topic. So like this, he can get the knowledge or get the resource of problem identification.
I hope you have understood the class. Thank you for listening. Please share and subscribe if you are interested.